take pictures. Right. 7 o'clock. We'll get started here. Chief Tony, can we do roll call, please?
Yeah, Kevin Engelman,
Here.
Tammy Roll.
Here.
Candace.
Here.
And Cameron.
Here.
Randy is excused. He did send me a message that he could not make it.
Okay. Move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next we got our citizenship awards. Well,
Yeah, so the Cross Plains Police Department started a award. Citizenship awards that we decided we wanted to recognize citizens in our community, including students in our community. So we actually just handed out certificates at Park. We named those after peanuts, and we chose some students that basically resembled citizenship and did do a good job with their peers, respectful, those kind of things. We did the same thing at Glacier, and we named that award after Michael South. And again, it was the same type of award, respectful and those things. And so now we are hoping to continue this year after year. And so you guys are our first citizen award, community award recipients. Our police department, Nikki, was instrumental in helping me try to decide how we were going to do this. And so she's here today to grab some pictures and just kind of captivate the moment. So basically, these certificates are from our police department, and they say, basically they're in recognition to Doc Esser and recognition to Katie Grip. And they basically say the same thing: for making significant contributions to the Cross Plains community through their time, actions, talents, and dedication, for serving as role models with compassion and service, for always striving to make Cross Plains a better place through teamwork and unity of purpose. And so our department is basically very glad to have worked with both of you and want to recognize you for your efforts in our community. So,
Well, thank you very much.
you are very welcome. You are very welcome. And Katie Grip. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And there'll be-
Why not? Standing next
and
to
no
that.
crying, there'll be no crying.
Someone was crying last night.
No.
You guys all want to- The picture with me? Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Thank you.
Are we allowed to post these on our Facebook or?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
For a little bit of what I'm doing, the 56 years ago, I started hunter safety. This town, I'm still doing it. You know, people have 6,000 kids. I started literally 56 years ago.
Wow.
EMS 20 years, police sergeant town 56 years. Lions secretary 32 years. Cabinet 30 years. Other than that, I didn't do much.
Wow.
I've been over 27 years over in Swamp Lovers, and 9 years at Western Park.
And you've also served on committees and boards.
I served on the village board, I was on the first committee for 9 years. And,
Yeah.
yeah, love what I do, did a lot of things. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's good to be busy looking.
Oh, sorry.
Awesome. Thanks for your hard work, guys.
You go to work. Yeah, helps you at work. One of the lights in the park coming.
They're coming.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Alrighty. Move on to public comment. I'll read it anyway. This is an opportunity for anyone to address the committee on any issue. Please observe the time limit of 3 minutes. While the committee encourages input from residents, it may not discuss or act on any issue that is not duly noticed on the agenda.
We have nobody online and I didn't receive anything by email,
Nothing?
so we have nothing.
All right, move on to approve our minutes from our May 16th meeting. May I have a motion? Second. Motion in a second. Okay, all in favor to approve the minutes, say aye. Aye, all opposed? Okay, awesome.
Any comments from chairman? Yes.
I do not have any major updates. I have some information, updates on the deposit schedule stuff, but we can chat about that when we get to that agenda item.
Members. Anything from you guys? Well, we're a lively bunch. We're really working hard.
Summer and
All right, I didn't get an update from EMS. I did invite them to this meeting, but I didn't hear back from them. I don't know what happened there, but I didn't get any kind of report. So I'm just gonna say no report at this time. Fire chief was unable to be here due to a commitment, but he had nothing to report, nothing out of the ordinary. The same, calls for service and same, he's still recruiting, those kind of things, but nothing new to report. I'm gonna keep mine pretty short. One thing that did happen is I was nominated to this Green Bay Packers, it's a community award for my work in policing and that kind of thing. I didn't win the award, but they still sent me a really nice letter, which I will pass around. And they also sent me a challenge coin. It was kind of neat to receive, from the Packers, I was nominated by St. Francis. Yeah, so it was kind of a neat honor.
very cool. Congratulations.
Okay, so my report, I'm glad to, happy to report, our officer that was on medical leave is back. She is working light duty right now. She's doing, stuff around the office and helping us get caught up, office style work. She will be in that capacity till, at least July 25th, and then, she'll have some days off because that's the way it'll fall in the rotation, and she should be back in full service July 30th. So I'm really excited about that, but she's already helpful just being in the office because we were desperately short with our retirement and her being out. As far as the report for the retirement, we have had 2 applicants for that position. I did have some inquiries from that position asking me to increase the pay, and I would probably get some very highly qualified candidates. I don't know if that's would be in the budget at this point. I mean, the person who called me wanted a $3 increase, and based on that position, it would be about a 10% raise from what we're offering now. More like 8, but between 8 and 10. So the person would be highly qualified and young in their profession, that it would be a good move on our behalf. I've known them for a while, but it just couldn't swing it. But we do have 2 qualified candidates that have applied so far, and the hiring process is still till the end of the week, and it's not surprising to get people that are like on the fence, what should I do, and then you end up with candidates. Filling a supervisory position is always harder because you're not looking for entry level people where people are graduating. These are people that have to make a move. They've already established themselves in their profession, and most people that are looking for sergeant, lieutenant type positions, they understand that grass isn't greener always on the other side, and so they don't jump ships that quickly. So it's not surprising, because of our wage, just in comparison. So that wage at 30, I think it's $32, it would be about $65,000 a year would be the salary if you did it hourly, which is what it would be in comparison. Middleton starting entry level officer is making 74,000. So you can't, how are you going to bring a supervisor when they can go there and just, handle calls and make $9,000 more? So it puts us in a bind, but we do have 2 qualified candidates. I do want to say that one of our candidates is an internal candidate. So that's nice because they already understand the system and those kind of things. So we'll see how they fare within the police commission. Police commission will make that determination. That's about the only update with personnel that I have. As far as cases, same kind of cases that we've always handled. What I do want to tell you is that we're at already 1,554 cases for the year. And if last year we handled 2,800 cases. So we're going to surpass the 2,800 mark. I would, even if we just double that, you're already at 3,000 cases. So it's been a steady increase in case volume. Like I said before, it's a double-edged sword. The more you get involved with the community, the more you're out there in the community, the more the community wants to talk to you about all their issues and problems. And so we get much more involved. The least you're with the community, the least amount of complaints you're going to get, because people kind of handle it themselves or whatever. But we're also highly active and proactive in the community. So we're making a lot of traffic stops, slowing people down. So it's just, that's the trend of why there's so much more increase. Right now, with having 4 staff members handling calls, it's very, very time consuming, and very, very difficult to do, but we're doing okay and we're still here. So that's pretty much my report, unless you have questions.
I actually have kind of. I don't know if it's random, but is there a trend between seasons? Like for me, I think like on the outside, I would think that like summertime,
Yeah.
especially in Wisconsin, we have limited
Mhm.
nice weather.
Yeah.
And so I would assume that probably
Yep.
get more calls.
Yep.
Right, like in the summer, so if we're already at 1,500, like we have.
Yeah, the summer
weeks.
months increase calls for sure, because more people are out, more people are visible, more people are walking. As far as trends, as far as seriousness of calls, that you used to be able to almost depend on it. It didn't matter what department or what area, where you saw the trends were mostly in the summer, fall, kind of that way, and then they really died down in the winter. It's not happening like that anymore. The serious calls, like the serious type calls, they happen all year round, and they're not predictable as much as they used to be. We do a lot of education pieces, but still I think we haven't recovered from COVID and that the financial crisis. What we find it with domestics, it's always entangled with some financial issues, or someone's lost a job, or someone's not making enough to pay, and then there's that violent piece. We've had a little bit of an uptick in sexual assaults with some of our youth. So I think nowadays kids are more apt to send pictures of themselves, are more apt to be involved sexually, and so we're getting complaints where they're getting involved with older people that shouldn't be having sex with 14 and 13-year-old girls. So we're getting some of those type of complaints. But yeah, there is something to say as far as call volume. Probably the more minor ones, like maybe a traffic complaint, or a neighbor just dog just did this or something like that, or loud noise. It's more apt during the summer because people are more visible. So we will see an uptick in the summer months, which just because. Any other questions?
Question on the salary differential. So I know other department heads are kind of working on, tiers and stuff and competitive pay. Are you involved in that at all?
For sure.
Perfect. That's what I wanted to make sure.
Yep, no, it's a subcommittee made up of department heads. I've missed some meetings due to just workload, but yeah, I'm aware of it, and I'm aware of all the strategic plan. I actually, today I had a nice meeting with Brian about some of the plan
Okay.
and my opinions are heard in that plan. It's a little, it will be different because the plan is for village employees as a whole. And you got to remember, like the majority of my employees are union employees. So they fall under a different umbrella of the way we can process things. They, you know, a lot of the strategic plan is based on improvements and one-on-ones and all that. When you're in a union, you really got to be careful of
Yeah.
that because of union issues and fairness within the union. So it'll be interesting how that will play out, but yeah, I am aware of all that and pushing, you know, for us, you know, and I'm also want to make sure that the village board remembers that back last year, they decided that the police departments, the police officer, another police officer position was the priority for the village, which is still up there.
Yeah.
So before we're adding any kind of other positions, I mean, with the increases alone, I mean, like the other night, like for instance, the other night, I've been working 120 hours every 2 weeks since this has been going on. And the other night we had one of our officers was sick and she actually worked, I think it was like 6 days off a day and then worked another 6 days. So, I mean, she's working overtime, she's doing, and she just didn't feel well. So I had to leave the ship open and on a Saturday night, that's not a good idea, you know, and we didn't have no coverage. So I'm like, I had my radio on by my bed, listening to see if they're calling Cross Plains, you know, because and the community doesn't want that. They don't want that shortage. They want, when they call, they want Cross Plains to respond, not anybody else. And so I mean, we desperately need a position to help offset that problem because people do get sick. People do want to go on vacation. They do, you know, it's just, you can't run a department with even 6 people, but so I that part I will be holding the board kind of like, hey, we, you know, if we're thinking about additions, there it is. It's there every time we have a meeting. So any other questions? Otherwise, that's it for me.
No, sorry. Okay. All right, we can move on to our agenda items. We only have one,
Yep.
which is back to the municipal court fine schedule stuff. I am terrible because I couldn't get the printer to print like it did last time. So this is tiny and I'm really sorry.
Thank you.
I had it I don't know. I had it landscape last time, so everything was big and readable and I just could not get the printer to do that again. So this is nothing has changed with this data. I was really hopeful that we would get the data from Black Earth. You know, the person, you know, I left a voicemail, it was like a month ago now, she called me back and she said, yep, great, I'm gonna get you that information. We actually have court tomorrow night, so let me ask them and I'll talk to them. So in the following day, I sent an email, nothing. I called, left a voicemail, nothing, left another voicemail, followed up another email. So I don't know, they just went dark on me. So in lieu of getting Black Earth data, I did try a Hail Mary. Candace, you had warned that Mount Horeb was not responsive when you tried, and I did try them. Same thing, emails, or, you know, just go, you know, I call the court line and it goes right to voicemail.
So crazy because like if you look on our village website, you can find our court schedule.
Yep.
It actually comes up and it's accessible. It's an open record.
Yep. Well, and
And it's so
even,
weird.
you know,
It's
when
very interesting. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's very interesting how like private.
Yeah, it's
well, I don't even know if they mean to. It's just, you know, we have Becky who, you know, is our court.
yeah,
But she, you know, from what I'm aware, you know, is responsive to the emails, you know, always answering the calls or whatever. These places seem like, you know, I don't know when their court, what is that position called?
court clerk.
Court clerk, yeah. Like, you know, I don't know when they work. I don't know if you know, it's like one day a week or something, and then just, you know, they're, you know, go through a pile of voicemails and emails, and then just mine does not rise. I don't know. I have no idea what's going on, but so I actually don't, you know, sad to report, I have no additional information. That being said, you know, if we wanted to have a discussion, and you know, try to, you know, get some ideas on the table. I can chase down some other things while we try to wait for more data, or, take no action, whatever this group is kind of feeling.
If we don't mind waiting until the next meeting, I can try, because I now realize Black Earth County Clerk that I could probably contact personally.
Okay.
I didn't realize at the time, but I believe that we can talk, her name, is he the same person that you contacted?
It might have been, and I don't have internet on this to pull up name. Actually, I
But
don't have a phone.
maybe if, unless we wanna take action now, but if we just wanna try and get as much data as we can,
Sure.
that is a possibility.
I'm not in a rush on this. I mean, it's not like, I don't know what Chief Tony's feelings are, but no one is knocking on my door saying, hey, when is this deposit schedule thing gonna be dealt with?
No.
So,
No one's even brought it up. It was brought up as part of a plan that was given to us at the end of last year into this year to find efficiencies, find better way to share services that, where can we save, where can we add, those kind of things. And I was very vocal about, I don't like the fact that this is anywhere near that, because I don't feel that issuing more tickets or higher tickets is a way to fix any kind of budget woes. And to me, that just feels wrong. And when you're trying to develop a department that's strong community oriented, you don't want that to even be a perception. And so I personally don't think this needs to go much further. If you wanted to work on it and then later on bring it up. I don't see anything in here. I mean, the drug one doesn't surprise me. Smaller municipalities are gonna have higher drug things. I mean, City of Madison charges you $1. I mean, they don't believe in marijuana arrests. The one that's surprising, that if there's one glaring one, is the disorderly conduct, and that one we do issue at a high level. So that, if you look at Middleton, I mean, it's significantly higher, but then when you look at it from the perspective of the marijuana or paraphernalia and the other ones, they're lower, in
Yeah.
other communities. So to me, it just seems like if we're comparing just simply Middleton, it's pretty, if you averaged all this out, it would probably be pretty average.
that was the point I think Candace brought up at the last meeting was, if you add up all the pluses and minuses
Yeah.
on that final column, it's not. We're not too much above or below, I don't remember what, but we're.
So I think if our purpose was to simply look at our municipal schedule and compare it to the areas, I think we can comfortably say we're within that ballpark. There doesn't need to be an adjustment. If that's what we're thinking, and then, I mean, no motion needs to be taken. We're not doing anything with it. And I don't think that anybody's gonna knock on our door and say, hey, have you guys looked at the municipal fines?
Yeah,
We want those increased. Besides the fact that not only there's multiple hurdles. So one is it's gotta be a recommendation from here, but then it's gotta go to the judge, who then has to approve that recommendation, and then it goes to village board. So is it worth really messing with? I don't believe so. It's not enough.
Okay.
Do you think increasing the disorderly conduct or the harassment is going to cause somebody to think twice?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you increase a fine, people are like, ouch, that hurt a little more than that. The judge has the discretion to go as low as he wants within the bond, within the schedule. He can take away stuff. So even if we write a ticket at, let's say you increase that by $100, he can take it back down to where it was before, based on their record and recommendation by the attorneys and all of that stuff. So I mean, most people that get a ticket here, just plea in, it's usually our staff is well versed that if you're getting a ticket from the Cross Plains Police Department, you deserve it. You had it coming. We're not heavy-handed citation writers. So we normally don't see anybody in court. It's an empty courtroom. You might see one that might have gotten 3-4 tickets because, he's a habitual something. Then the judge will kind of weigh that stuff. So, I don't know if people found, I mean, disorderly conduct, plus it's in your in your record technically here. If there's anything disorderly that rises beyond a ticket, it's usually you're going to jail, and it's usually getting referred on. It's attached to something more like maybe a battery or something. Yeah, it's something else. So I don't know if that would curtail it. I guess I've never had anybody receive a disorderly conduct ticket and say, wow, that was cheap. Most people are like, yeah, I don't want to pay $130 for, this bonehead thing I did. They usually come in and say, did I really have to get one? And usually it's like, why don't you look at the video of what you did, and then you tell me, and people are like, okay, I get it, that kind of thing. So
Yeah, I hear everything, but I'm also, Sam, I'm not sure if you're going there, but if, I'm just kind of going back to why do we have these, or why are these even here? What is the purpose of them? Is it to cover expenses because our staff has to represent at a court case and the processing fees that we incur based on our resources?
I mean, that comes, so there's a court budget that has nothing to do with the police department. So anytime we appear in court, it goes under the court budget. Anytime the attorney works out of the court budget. So the village has already given X amount of money for court stuff.
Sure.
Any kind of fine we issue goes to the court fund, right? So no, to me, it's more about the perception of us increasing fines, and then all of a sudden we write 3 disorderly conduct tickets, and people are like, you guys just increased fines and now we're getting like tickets. It might just happen that way, but
Sure.
that's why I don't like this. I don't even like the fact that we did it, but
Yeah.
the reality is that we were asked, where are the avenues that haven't been looked at, and should there be fines associated to that? There's no different than what's happening village wide with regards to costs for like events. Like, okay, so we've been keeping track of how much overtime it's costing us, how much manpower, do I have to bring in other staff to handle like trout days, to handle like whatever, and then is it time to start increasing fees and pass that cost off to the event people? So I think that is it's all of that, and I think the village board, in essence, are looking at, are we adequately putting fees that are
Sure.
normal, or are we way under, or are we way over?
Yeah, I mean, for me, knowing that, then when I look at this, then I go to, it just needs to be, community parity. You want some parity across, and it sends a message on where prioritization is within our village based on fines. And when I look at this, it's heavy on, we don't want drugs and we don't want paraphernalia, but we're not as concerned about harassment and disorderly conduct.
So if you look at it,
Look at it.
and if you look at it from that point, then I think then it's fair to say maybe we need to increase those, because I mean, drug cases we get some, drug paraphernalia cases we get, all of these offenses are our main offenses. So that's why I think we identified the 10 that we know we issue. So yeah, I think if your thoughts are, which I can get behind, if your thoughts are, okay, we don't want drugs, we don't want people doing all this stuff, and we definitely don't want people committing disorderly conduct acts or or the harassment, type of thing, then we need to increase those fines so there's a little more punch to that happening.
I mean, you had said this previously, chief, that, like the perception, of course, is like, we don't want to appear it's for profit.
Yeah.
Right, like, we raise the disorderly conduct to 400.
Yeah, then all of a sudden it's like, whoa.
We have multiple, so that it looks like.
And I don't know if the judge would ever go with something that drastically, increased. I think he may push back on that. Because you're, like something like that, you're doubling up. But I think if you said across the board we need to increase this by $50 or even $100, I don't think that is drastic enough, but But I can get behind what you're saying, Kevin. I completely agree with that. I think, we say, hey, we don't want drugs, but we also don't want disorderly conduct behavior.
Yeah.
And those things are pretty low. And when you drive 6 miles away, they're holding them at a much higher level.
Right.
So, I mean, the argument could be, yeah, so Middleton doesn't care if they're doing drugs because they're only charging 100, right?
Say, I think if you went as far to do that, right, if it would maybe help with the perception that if we're gonna increase disorderly conduct because the neighbors are higher, if we're gonna increase harassment because the neighbors are higher. I think it would only be fair if we looked at some of our other things and said, well, our neighbors are lower.
Yeah.
And so it would be kind of part of the package of like, we're trying to do this stuff. This isn't captured in here, but I will put this out there. City of Middleton, possession of marijuana, they do have. The first charge is $100 and that's what's on here. But then their second charge is 2, third is 3, and their fourth plus is 500. So there is,
An increase.
there is a level of scale there. Madison's gonna be $1, they're $1 because they're Madison, but Middleton is, can be higher.
Where we have a first and a second offense, and then you're just stuck at that offense, even if we catch, at the second. So, and that's usually what communities do. They don't have a step grade. Like if you're citing someone 5 times for drugs, I mean, holy mackerel, you got some serious issue with that person, obviously.
Yeah.
So obviously you're dealing with them on a continuous basis. Usually first and second offense, and that's, then you kind of keep it at that second offense. I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think we need to compare ourselves to Middleton, Madison, wherever. I think it's easier to get behind, look, we don't want drugs and we don't want disorderly conduct issues. We don't want, these are the main cases. We believe this one we should increase, that one we would leave, this, that kind of thing. And then get behind it as enforcement rather than comparison. I think that makes more sense to me. But it's up to you guys. And obviously we'd have to make, if we're looking at these top tiered problems, we'd have to make a recommendation, and then I'd have to go to the board and say, this is what, this is what the recommendation is from you guys, and recommendation is from the judge. The judge said simply, when I talked to him, because I didn't understand that process, he said you would just simply talk to me at a court date, say what what you guys have recommended, and I would just say okay or no, to one. If there's a no, I think then I would bring it back to you guys to rehash it out, or get a sense from him, like why would he say no? Does he think it's just too heavy-handed? Where would he be comfortable? Bring back the recommendation, but then completely give it to the board with all of them, everything that, we looked at our ordinances, these seem to be deficient, we'd like to increase these. And this is, and it's not about making money. It's about holding people accountable at a higher rate to deter crime.
Yeah.
I think that's what's gotta be.
Prioritizing those areas and sending a clear message on what we feel is most critical for public safety, right?
Well, and that's what we are, right?
Yeah.
This is what, so I think, I can get behind that for sure.
Yeah, I think I'm all for like having a bigger discussion if we think an increase is actually gonna be a deterrent.
That was gonna be what I asked you.
Mhm.
Like.
Yeah,
So we start, said, it's $130. We raise it to 200, is that gonna be a deterrent?
I mean, like I said, I've never had anybody say, oh, great, this ticket's cheap, not even speeding, our speeding is low too. Our speeding violations are much lower than the state tickets. But I've never had, people still don't want to pay. I just got a parking ticket parked around we went to the farmer's market, and the time ran out. I come back, I'm like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. For the $25 ticket, I was like losing it. Like I could have bought, more tomatoes or something. It's like, my wife's like, we should have put more. I'm like, we were not gone 15 minutes. I was maybe 15 minutes over. So $25 was bothering me. So I think $130, $200. You think of your own lives, like if you gave away $200, you'd be like, no, I don't really want to give anybody $200.
So another question, thinking about what Middleton does for marijuana, how many of your disorderly conduct tickets or harassment tickets are repeat offenders? Usually want to do a graduation scale.
The reality is we don't have a lot of repeat offenders. The repeat offenders that we, at least in my 3.5 years here, repeat offenders are usually getting arrested. It's much more than this. And what I find in small towns is, this is what happens in small towns is you'll get that offender, and either they then fall into the norm of the community that they're living in because it's small, and we're going to run into them because we know everybody, because we're waving at everybody, we're running into you all the time. And what happens is either they conform to that, okay, here I can't be smoking dope and acting a fool because they all know me and they're all gonna know, or they move. And so we have a lot of, like in some of our locations, like up here on Westview Court, you have a lot of movement. People are there one week and the next week they're gone. And so repeat offenders is not, I mean, we know our repeat offenders. Like we're at a point here, and I've only been here 3.5 years, but if you send me to a certain house on Church Street, I know exactly who I'm dealing. I know them, I know their mom, I know their brother, and you just know, what you're dealing with, what you're going to. And that, in small towns, that's the beauty of it, is you actually get to know people and be able to make change. And people that move here and don't fall into those norms, they move out, because it's just like, I don't want them knowing all my business. I might as well move back to Madison where nobody knows me.
Any idea the fees here, when those were last touched?
When I asked Scott, he couldn't even remember when that was ever happened. So it's probably
It's
been,
pretty reflective, this is old, and part of it's that.
Yeah.
I'm guessing others have updated, Madison wasn't always $1.
no,
As an example,
Yeah.
times have changed
Yeah.
and prioritizations have changed, especially around some of these things. What should be constant is some of those things that we just discussed, harassment and disorderly conduct. That should be, in my opinion, a constant. These other ones are a little bit more controversial. Personally, when I peeled $200 off possession of marijuana and put it in harassment or disorderly conduct instead, that's just my.
But I kind of forgot the speeding one, but I think we should look at that. I think speeding is like $98 here for like somebody going 10-15 over. So I mean, it's very low. So I can send that too. That is something that we could
want regional.
I mean, that's probably one that speeding tickets is probably what we write the most out of all of these tickets. So that should probably be on there. So I think maybe what I'll do is, for the next one, since we have this sheet, I'll write it out and make it as part of our packet. And then that will give you guys an opportunity to say, okay, where would we want to increase? And if you wanted to reach out to Black Earth, send that to me by email so I can include it in this Excel. And I have a meeting with Doug Burchek. He's the chief in Mount Horeb, and I'm just gonna say, hey, why do we have so much trouble getting your guys's bond or court fees?
Yeah.
And maybe he can, we're discussing something else, but I think I'll just reach out to him.
Any chance that we could put an N next to some of these, meaning like, what is the frequency of these on average year, last 3 year average or something like that?
We can definitely do that.
That way we know the magnitude of what we're talking about too. Otherwise, we might be, hyper focusing on something that really.
I can
Top 10, but you know what I mean?
maybe do a 3-year analysis on all these violations and just say, okay, where are they? How many animal at large complaints have we, how many disorderly conducts that we had, and give you a visual, like, from all these cases.
Some of that.
Yep. So I can, the system that we have, the record management system, allows me to break it down by category. So I can just do that. And then, like, I can tell you right now, like the discharge of firearms, 3.5 years I've been here, we've never had one. But that's a more serious one.
Yeah.
Like, it's obviously, we don't want people shooting guns in town, it's too dangerous. harassment we get, retail theft we get. A lot of times with retail theft, not only do they get that punishment, that one's a bigger one. I mean, it's not such a big fine, but that's pretty embarrassing. You get cited for retail theft, like let's say Piggly Wiggly, and you're from town here, they usually trespass you. So now you can never go in there to get food. And so now you're barred. That's way worse than a $200 ticket. You know, what's that? Yeah, it used to be in the paper. It used to, when there was local paper, I think when there was local paper, it used to, all of these things would come up, because I think they were doing news releases. I'm against news releases. I just think it's so embarrassing. It's like, you know, and I get it. I mean, maybe there is a point to do that, but I mean, they're already getting their ticket. Why does the neighbor has to know that, it's, I've even seen it in Darlington. There was a business, they would, for whatever reason, ended up with a lot of non-sufficient funds, and they would put up a poster board, say this person didn't pay me, and they put their name, like anybody walked in there, saw these names, and it's like, wow, it's just an overkill. It is. So I mean, I'll split these up. These are our main ones. There's definitely nothing on here that, if I can find other ones that are like, oh, I forgot, like the speeding, I definitely forgot. I'll add them and then bring them to you. There's no rush on this. I don't think we need to rush. And I'll just keep bringing them back. And if you work on Black Earth, I'll work on Mount Horeb. And I'll talk to the chief.
Email you, Candace, who I worked with the person I spoke to and shared me with at Black Earth. It's not working right now.
Okay, so I will leave that on our agenda for next month too. Do we want to have a meeting in July? We have suspended meetings. If you guys remember, during the summer, we suspended just a couple meetings so people could have their summers off. We don't have anything pressing, so I'm not too opposed to that. I think if you guys wanted to skip, I think last year we skipped July, and there was a year that we skipped July and August. I think we did it in our June meeting and then came back in September.
Okay.
I mean, it's up to you guys. I mean, I'm just bringing it out.
Let's, skip it for now, obviously, but I mean, if, something comes up.
Yeah, if something comes
you
up,
can
then
email and we
I
get a
can
meeting
call
together.
you, and then we can get a meeting
Yeah, we get a
together.
meeting together in 2 days or whatever.
So, something major comes up. Okay, so are we just skipping till September, or are we?
Yeah.
Okay, let's just
Again,
unless something comes up, and then I'll send you an email. All right, let's look at,
Those next 2 months on the calendar.
yeah, we'll keep them on the calendar just in case, like keep you guys. Maybe what I'll do is I'll email you and say no update. There's nothing that we need to deal with. And then so the next one that we will for sure be at will be September 19th at 7. Okay. You guys know we have some major projects coming in. Those will be done during the summer. So they'll be working on Brewery Road. There'll be significant construction there. We've had some meetings, so understanding the plans of how that road will be blocked off for emergency services. So all the chiefs are in the loop on that. And then the KP build out the bridge project will be also, it's a 60-day project. That'll be nice once that's done too, but
Just going down in that.
Yeah.
What is the start date on that?
July,
Mid-July?
yeah, it's somewhere in mid-July.
Okay.
Yeah, they're both kind of around the same time, so we'll have some traffic issues, but at least they're way across the town from each other. This one on Brewery Road, they said it'll be passable always, at least one lane, so that's good, because getting up there is important. But down here concerns me, because if we're on that side of town and we get a milestone call or that new subdivision, we're gonna have to travel all the way to Quick Trip and then come up all the way Bourbon. So I mean, you may see squad cars and fire trucks look kind of silly, but because they'll have that on Market Street from Bourbon Road to Main Street will be just completely junk. My concern is the train, so how, you're gonna have to keep that obviously clear.
Yeah,
That would be a bad day, they leave something on the track,
Right.
middle of the, I mean, that train is pretty active.
Yeah.
right? It's-
Very.
So, well, you probably hear it.
Yeah, what's crazy is I think you guys hear it, you guys,
I hear it, and so, but
you guys hear it? You can hear it over there?
I can hear it by the middle school. I mean.
Yeah.
It,
It depends on, I think, how it's echoing.
yeah, I mean, sometimes like 11 o'clock, I'm like, okay, I'm going to bed, all of a sudden train horn, I'm like, what?
And it's funny, we've had
Right.
complaints on the train, like when it comes through at night, like they're required to blow that. I've talked to a couple of people about. They're required a certain amount of traffic and then they gotta blow it, even if no one's there or nothing, they're required to do that. So it's like,
Kevin Thucius
Way it is.
had said that.
oh yeah, he
There's,
did. look
there's
at
like
that.
there's like a petition you can do to like quiet areas to the like Department of Transportation or whatever. I don't think anyone's tried, but,
I don't know if you'd be successful.
I don't know
with
if you
that.
would either. They could look at the population and traffic and say, nope, too high, gotta blow the horn, or they might say, oh, okay, we don't need you there.
It's interesting, but we have received complaints like, is there anything you can do about it? No.
Pull them over.
Not much I can do about that.
There's like a post on Facebook, and I don't know who it is, but there's a certain conductor, and they must like do the horn a certain way, and he like loves it and looks forward to it, like it's.
Like,
The pattern.
there's-
Oh, really? That's interesting.
It's like a signature little thing that each one of them
And
does.
she's like, it's my favorite conductor, like.
Yeah, that's kind of good ear. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I
Um,
just hear the blow of the whistle and I'm like, yep, it's coming through. The only thing I do when I'm working is please make it all the way through. That's all I think of. It's like, I don't wanna hear like, hey, did that just rumble the floor? Now we've got a real problem.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think we did skip over future items of discussions.
Yep.
Does anyone have anything in particular we should talk about in September or before? No, okay.
knock on wood, surprisingly, remember, we used to get like 5-6 things at once and we haven't been getting any.
I'm
any-
curious about a follow through on some things that have been with this committee the past year.
Yep,
There was Valley Street, all the yellow was gonna be.
yeah, that should have already
You know,
been done. I've already talked to Brian about it because I think what happens is it gets through this committee, gets to the village board,
Yeah,
but then it doesn't get to staff.
right.
Somehow it's dropped. So not only that one, but the other one that was the Park Street. Remember, they wanted that whole thing repainted. That has not been done. The signs are fallen down. Remember, we approved no parking next to Evergreen, right by the school, by Military Road
Yeah.
and that whole area.
Yep.
Those signs are falling apart. So I have talked to Jerry about that and said, hey, we're doing all this work, it
Right.
gets through the board and then it doesn't get to where it needs to be. And so I don't know whose responsibility is that, but I think it really should land on the administrator
Yeah.
to be like, hey, this was approved, when is this gonna be done, and then follow through. So I can check and
Yeah,
say that it was
but
mentioned.
Those-
So
those
can you
are
think
things.
of,
There was
so
the crossing one too, the flags.
Valley Street, that one will be me. I
I
still,
know you had some discretionary funds that you
Yeah,
were able to use
so
for purchase.
it still will end up in Jerry's hands
still have
because
to
he'll have to
install it.
take.
Install them.
Yep, and that was, it was right here and
By the bank.
and by the bank, so I'll check on
Think
that.
about it when I'm watching people cross every day in like Brogger.
Yeah.
So.
So I will get those flags to Jerry. Again, they're supposed to have those things to install them, so. But Valley Street was painting, right?
Valley was painting for that. It's one-sided along Valley, right now it's yellow striped on this, what would that be, this east side?
Okay.
of Valley.
I'll just look at through all our agendas and see which ones. And then look at what the village board, I'll just have to follow through with them and then make a list. And then I think once I get that list done, I will take care of it. And then I'll copy all of you in the email and send it to Brian, say, hey, this is what we recommended, this is what the village board recommended. Where are we with those things?
Yeah, maybe between yourself and Cameron, then, having that line of sight of the village board, if there's things that we recommend that don't go through, that's nice to know too.
Mhm.
I mean, it's fine.
Yeah,
Honestly, we haven't had anything.
Yeah, I'll let you know if any of that happens. It hasn't
Again,
since I've been.
we're making recommendations in most cases on things, and if they don't go through, it's just nice to know if they can go through,
Yep.
that's great to know, just so we know our time and effort here is.
Yep.
I can say the board approved the flags, the board approved the signs on Evergreen.
Mhm.
I don't remember Valley Street, if that might have been before I was on the board or.
I think it was.
Or I've forgotten because.
And the
there's been a
Park
lot of
Street,
stuff.
the Park Street one to repaint that, so it's
No, we
still
approved
kind
that
of,
one too.
yeah,
right?
that was,
Since I've been on
I
the
know
board.
it was approved. So I mean, once it gets recommended by us and approved by the board, then it trickles,
Yep.
it needs to trickle to staff, so
Yep.
there's a disconnect there.
Right,
And I think that, I mean, in my
Brian
opinion,
should
that's
be the option
Brian's,
there.
like,
Yep.
he's the one that should say, hey, it's gotta go here.
those are things that have already gone through committee, so
Yeah.
those could be followed up by email.
Yeah,
No,
yes,
right.
at this point, it's just, hey, and I'll simply say, the committee wanted to see, they're still not seeing those things accomplished, where are we with them? They need to be done, I mean,
Yeah.
there's no point in, I mean, we're recommending body, but
Yeah,
once the board approves it, there should be a timeline, like how soon will that be done, and who's following up on that?
some of those are more time sensitive, it is summertime and.
Yeah.
People are walking and that's when it would be.
So I'll follow up, I'll look back at all of our agendas,
Summer 7th, 2021,
that's which one,
Valley Street.
okay?
That would have been before I was on the board,
Mhm.
so I don't remember that one. Yeah, I don't know the exact dates of the other ones. I could help you look through packets or whatever.
I'll be able to find them because I have all my agendas since I started here, so I'll look at all of them and then I'll drive to see if they were done.
Okay.
And so I'll just confirm, because I know he was working on them, and I know Brian has mentioned it at a department head meeting, like, where are we at with these things? I did send out an email about the one that I see all the time is the one by the school.
Yeah, that's when I
You know,
see
I
that
see
every
that
day.
every day,
The
so,
one on Park Street.
yeah, the one Evergreen, because those signs are like crumbling now.
I drive,
And so they're
back
the
in that
temporary
development,
signs,
so I drive past it, three,
Yeah.
4 times a day and every
and
time.
those
I-
should have been permanent by now.
Yeah, I was like, we approved this months ago.
Yeah,
What's going on?
the holdup, I mean, though, that was an issue when I first started here.
Yep.
They had temporary ones. We didn't own the property. They were approved to be put up, even though there was no enforcement really that could be taken. But Bill took care of the annexation of that. So then, I mean, that all went through committee. Then we agreed to put them permanently. Recommended it. They agreed to put them permanently. And they're still not permanent. And it's been probably 2 years. So I will do the follow-up, and then I will just say this is coming from this committee, as far as, like, we want to know where we're at with all these things. And I'll mention dates and include all of you in the email, because you know, it would be nice for you, like, you guys to help to, hey, and I'll send it to Brian,
Yeah.
And I mean, we believe that's Brian's responsibility, right? So.
Yep.
And it is. Okay,
All right,
any other things from the board? So why don't I put that, do you want me to put that on the agenda, like, just where are we at with that, or are you guys okay with just an email?
I'm fine with it.
Because I think we already discussed it,
Yeah. I don't think
So.
we can identify them.
yeah,
So-
let's start with the email and then I can, depending on Brian's response or whatever, I can escalate.
Okay,
It might be nice then to take what we all feel is formal update and place that into the notes of the next meeting in September. That way it's
Mhm.
captured
yep.
as,
Yeah.
kind of like.
Well, and maybe the way to capture it would be in your report. Like, by then, I mean, 2 months is plenty of time for for me to go through all those agendas. And look at what we've approved, what we recommended, what they approved, and then follow up to see if it was done, right?
Yeah.
So it'll give me time to get all that done, and then send you a list of all the things
Yep.
You know, that have not been done. What I'll do is I'll send a list of everything and then say these, you know, item 2, 6, 7 have not been accomplished. And that way you guys will know what has been accomplished and what hasn't. So kind of just a summary of what we've been doing for the past 3.5 years.
Yep.
Because we've approved a lot of things, or we recommended a lot of things. I remember when I first started here, we had like 15 item agendas. Is because you guys hadn't met in a long time. It was crazy. Yeah, I remember that. It was crazy getting through them, but. So, okay,
One last thing on regarding Trump Days on behalf of obviously the Trump Days Planning Committee, Lions Club, Chamber, and all the other organizations. Want to thank the, public safety within Cross Pines chief, you and staff, made an appearance. We didn't use you as a resource, thankfully, for anything, but you had a presence there. Fire EMT was there on the east end of town, doing public showing of their buses and trucks, and I think that goes a long way. So
for sure.
it was a great event, and the village stepped up and supported, and appreciate that. And I know there's some other things that we need to talk about as far as event fees and things like that too, but in my opinion, that event demonstrates, a small community and everyone coming together, civic organizations and our public service groups too. So thank you.
Awesome.
All right, motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Okay, second.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Uh,
All opposed, the same. Okay, be done.